Satsang with Maitreya, August 4th, 2001.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Vaeshya Maitreya Satsang. I hope you had a nice month and did God's work and rested and meditated and enjoyed the life while doing God's mission and learning how wonderful it is to do the God's work and how much joy it brings to you. And as usual, if there is anybody in the audience who is a new person, we can go over the great sign for you, because everybody in the earth should hear about the great sign at least once, and that's really one of the first steps in our mission, to let everybody hear the great sign and our teachings. Although everybody would know that we have our teacher in Florida, and I received beautiful feedbacks from, of course, all of you received the feedback from Tahira, that it went very well. And if our effort just make one person here the greatest sign, our effort has given the fruit, and also the exercise of doing this together and learning and experiencing how it's done and become more efficient in it is good enough and worth the effort and the energy we put into it. And I think a lot of good things came out of the whole process, and everybody learned a lot. Also, we learned the joy, of the group work together toward the goal in the kingdom of heaven on earth. And that itself, the process itself, is a great lesson and a great journey together. And hopefully one day all of you become one in mind, spirit, and purpose. And we create a great mission and the community and the body that is one. There is no gender, nationality, color, but one mission, one God, one earth, one humanity. And we will become one and just shatter all the knowledge of the mind and love one another that God loves us. And one thing I noticed is that this cooperation together and work together bring greater unity to people and humanity. That's a big job, so for a long time we're going to be doing this, and there's a lot of projects and ways that we can cooperate and bring this unity and joy for a long time. Even after the kingdom is established, the Paravipras have to watch society and be always ready to intervene and make the human progress in a greater degree. Then coming there, you guys got hurricane there. It sounds like the same thing anytime mission come to the Florida. There's a lot of rain, and even the last time they had the Feast of a Tabernacle there. There was a hurricane was coming to the land when we were there. Yeah, it never made it very strong, but there was a threat to get there. But no matter what the weather does, the mission goes on. A thing like that happens, it means mission doing something good. So that is testing our resolve, how much we want to put to do his work. As he said, he doesn't look like lukewarms. So that is why he put us in test to see, are we going to do his work, or are we going to afraid of rain, tornado, hurricane, problem, thing like that? Are we going to concentrate on him, or are we going to concentrate on the problems in our lives and our surrounding? And if we concentrate on him, the problems just vanish and it is not there anymore. And also we have to look at where we live. We live in a society that is not supporting what we teach, and we didn't even bring, our children the way God wants us to do. Then how do we expect them to become godly and do God's will? They have to just see the whole picture, where we came from, what kind of the environment we live. Did we grow our children godly? We tell them they should follow 10 Commandments, and be godly. And then we can't blame God for everything, and see, how the things affect them. That's why the goal is to concentrate for the future, to see what are we trying to bring to humanity, and not to live now, but to live now with the projection of our expectation and our goal in the future, what we're trying to accomplish. So, concentrating God, and I'm glad that John didn't back up, having all the tornadoes and all that hurricanes in Florida, and went on with his mission, and I'm sure he's going to do just fine tonight, and we are looking forward to hear what happened. Okay, then if you have any question out there, put it down on the paper, but we're going to go ahead with the questions present here that we sent to the mission.
I was wondering if the military would be necessary after Coho was established. I know the warrior class will still exist, but they would be better suited for other jobs if there is Coho, such as policing, firefighting, etc. But also, it may still be necessary if someone should decide to rebel against Coho at some point. So I was just wondering if there was a plan for military use.
The question is about the kingdom of heaven on earth. Do we need police force? As we study in the THOTH, there are 4 classes of human, actually 5, but 4 is the one is mostly participate in the society, and that is Shudras, workers, Ksattriyans, or warrior class, Vipras, intellectual, and Vaeshyans, businessmen. So, as it is explained in THOTH, there is a period for each of them which dominate the society, and that domination is when one class becomes the most important class in the society, and they have the power and dominating position in the society. As the THOTH says, the Shudra class started after, even before the flood of Noah. Okay, and it started when Adam and Eve were thrown out of the Garden of Eden. Okay. Before that, they didn't have to tell the ground, did they? They just, as I said, everything was provided for them, and the grace of God was with them, and God told them what to do, what not to do, tell them, thou shalt not do this and that. And like most of human these days, they say, no, 10 Commandment is outdated, and we shouldn't follow that, and we should do whatever we want. We know better than God, and we believe in this prophet or that path, and that's enough, we're going to go to heaven. But are they, look at the life, is their life really peaceful? Is their life really, godly? Is their life really, together? We can see that what they say and what we can see in the life is completely 2 different things. So we can say that didn't work. Okay? That didn't, what they say is really ego is talking, not godly, and is not something that really manifests in the life. If you really, what you teach and preach and live works, you should have a peaceful life. You should have the right life. You should have a beautiful environment that everybody says, yeah, this is a beautiful place I love to come and be with. If you cannot create that, then you cannot say that my philosophy is correct. So that's what happened to Adam and Eve too. God said, I created you. I know what's good for you. I know how you can be happy. Don't do those things. So he put some laws for them to follow and not to fall from the grace. But they didn't listen to God. You know, the not eating of the good and evil really means, you know, I think what is good and evil. I'm not going to listen to God. Okay, I can make my mind. I can, you know, just like watch, you know, television or read and think it. Just everybody tells you what is good for you, what is right. They are the teachers and tell you you should do this if you want to be. But nobody says what God said is good for you. Okay, there's a lot of false teachers and false prophets all over the place. In radio, in television, in papers, everybody is trying to tell you what's right and what's wrong. But nobody is saying what God said, what's right and what's wrong. And Adam and Eve said the same thing, you know, we know better than him. You know what's good for us, you know. And God said, oh yeah, alright, I'm going to just withdraw my grace to see, you know, how you're going to do. And that's when they fell from the grace and they have to till the ground to have their food, you know, available to them. So the Shuddha really, Shuddha era, it started when the God threw Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden. And then they became Shuddha, they become workers. They had to work hard, they had to put a lot of physical work and thing into the ground to be able to gain, you know, the physiological and safety. Because later on, after the flood of Noah, we see that Nimrod become king and the Ksattriya era starts. Ksattriyans are authoritative, they are warrior class, they like to, you know, gain the power and domination by waging wars and become policemen and firefighters. The people they like to overcome but force by ability to, you know, create armies and bring the subject under their control. Of course, the good ones are benevolent and they help the subject, you know, bring peace to the subject and fight for them and defend them. So that Ksattriya mentality is, do we really need the Ksattriya mentality when the kingdom of heaven comes? That's really the question. You know, if we have eventually, if the Paravipras are created, of course, Paravipras that explain Paravipras have the characters of all the 4 classes. They can work like a labor if it's needed. You know, they're courageous and ability to become a leader like a captain and fight if it is necessary. To like an intellectual that have the ability to understand the intellectual part of the life, you know, science, math, physics, you know, how the society works, you know, how the labor and capital and land come together and start, you know, help the business to expand and all those nitty-gritty of the intellectual thing that the intellectual people know about them and create economical, you know, study and science and sociology and everything that helps an intellectual person to understand the environment. And also they are shrewd like a businessman. They have the ability to start business, to bring this, you know, capital and production and labor together and make it work. So, but at the same time, they are godly. That's the most important part of the Paravipras. They not only have this ability of the 4 classes, but also they are incorruptible. They will not be persuaded or swayed by wealth and power and everything that humanity so craves for. And that crave brings, you know, confusion to them, and they forget why they have been chosen for a position, why they are the leader of the society. They think they have to hoard wealth for themselves, you know, and if it's impossible, just take from the society and just keep it for themselves and forget why they are in that position. But Paravipras are not in that because they meditate, they awaken the spiritual forces, they know they have to create becomings of light, they sacrifice the surrender, submit to God, and become universalists. So all this, so Paravipra is really elect, is the sixth seal. The people who have reached the sixth seal. Now, of course, Paravipras help the cyclical movement of the social progress of social movements to go from one phase to the other one. And at least in the beginning, even when the kingdom comes, we need police force. Okay? We need people who be able to be used to put down the bad elements in the society. Okay. So for one thing, we need a Ksattriya class for that reason. Even in the kingdom, there might be some fire, so we might need some firefighters. Or, there might be some fire in the trees and jungle and forests, so we need that kind of people. And also, when it comes from the time to change from the Vaeshya era or business-oriented era, everybody in that era become workers, just like today. Even if you go to the college and get educated, where do you get the job? You have to go to a company or business place and apply for a job. They evaluate you, then they hire you. You become what? A wage earner. Really, you are a worker. You are a Shudra. Okay, you don't have the ability to use your creativity the way you want it. You have to bring it the way that company or organization wants you to use your intellect. Okay? If you have a Shudra mentality, what you become? You become security guard in a place. Okay, and so you can see in the Vaeshya era, everybody become worker, everybody become a wage earner, and they lose their ability to become free to use their creativity the way they want. Okay, so it's in this time that everybody become Shudra, and the Vaeshya become the dominating force of the society. Now, Paravipras in that time, they start loosening up the accumulated wealth at the hand of the few and spread the wealth again in a more equal way to the society. With doing that, again, the creative mind of the Vipras is released, and Shudras and Vaishyas become more free, to help, the subject or do whatever they need to do, and again the cycle starts over. But if in the Vaishyan era the change does not come so in a smooth way that Paravipras can do, then there usually will end up with a revolution, because the few people will have the most of the wealth, and most of the people will become Shudra and become unhappy. And we can see that unhappiness to a lot of people even today, that they feel, their life is just like a worker. They have to wake up in the morning, run to work, and work all day, and they're completely, in the mercy of whoever hired them. Okay? So, again, Paravipras might need a force to force the situation to change. So, again, they need what? They need Ksattriyas to help them to establish that environment. So we can see even in the era of Paravipras, Ksattriya class or all the classes are necessary. Of course, if we reach a point that we have a balance and we can do this thing even in a smooth way, the Ksattriya class become less and less important, and they become very few minority and few. So the encouragement is become mostly intellectual, and with the progress of the technology also, we need less and less workers. Okay. We can see a lot of things are done with robots and computers and bulldozer, and you probably need 100 workers to do what a bulldozer do in a day. So you can see that a lot of workers are not needed anymore. Then the Ksattriya class also will be less and less needed, because we don't need too much, police person, or because people become good, and we don't need to have revolutionary or leaders to revolt against the system. So the encouragement become intellectual encouragement and spiritual or Vaeshya class encouragement. So even the workers eventually and the Ksattriyans are being encouraged to become more and more intellectual and business oriented. So even the whole society is going to become in a higher level. And this even accelerates the progress of society even in a greater degree. So Ksattriya class still is needed, especially in the beginning, and then we reach a point that the society falls apart and the kingdom, the people are not going to follow our recommendation of society. Again, society will create the classes. Even if the social living of human is created by God, He made even that automatic. Okay. So if the society falls, again we're going to have a lot of laborers, and captain class going to be created. As you said, in the Vaeshya era, everybody will become what? Shudras. But intellectual and Ksattriyans, they can't stand it for long. Ksattriyans and intellectuals, even in intellectual, create the Ksattriyan mentality. Okay. So we can have a lot of Ksattriyans in that era is created. That's why usually revolution starts and people revolt against the oppression of one class and talking. So you can see, even if you do not create the kingdom of heaven, the process is going to continue. Okay. God really doesn't need us. We don't need, He doesn't need us to bring the kingdom on the earth, because kingdom in a way is going to happen, but the difference is in that case there's going to be revolt, there's going to be suffering, there's going to be destruction, there's going to be revolution, there's going to be, have you ever heard any bloodless revolution? Very few happen, the bloodless revolution. Usually they are pretty bloody. When the revolution happens, the people get killed, it's not a very good sight. Okay. So, and also revolution starts from the bottom of the society. And that's what they have to, by force, bring the top of the society down to bring a new system over. But in our system, Paravipras are at the top of the society. So that's why they can smoothly, change from one era to next era without a revolution, but in an evolutionary process. Evolution is not bloody. Evolution is very, smooth. Okay. So if people in the universities or people understand this or interested in this concept, understand this teaching, they will see how they can make human society much less violent, okay, and how to help this cyclical movement come and go without destruction and bloodshed and all that. So we can see that again, this our teaching bring a greater, degree of peace and niceness to humanity. I want to put it that way. So the answer to that question is yes, you need Ksattriya class, but then if you reach a point of the balance, that Ksattriya class is not needed as much as the labor is not going to need it less, but we might still need them, and then reach a point that there is a lot of the Vaeshya class is very powerful, the Ksattriya class will be created, by itself. So the answer is yes, we need Ksattriya class. Actually, we need all the classes, and all the classes evolve if the Paravipras do not help the next class to come and take over.
Another thing was Paravipras. How will they guide society and move through the cycles? Will it be by passing legislations restricting a class to allow the next? Or what will the method be? Thank you.
All of the above and more. It's just that, as you said, Paravipras really are the people who are going to fill the hierarchy, the body of hierarchy, the leaders and the Brahmins. Okay. Mostly leaders, the people who emerge from the bottom of the society. And when they emerge from the bottom of the society, what were they doing in those communities? Probably sweeping the floor, tending the garden, bringing the water, taking care of the roof, a small little thing like Shudras. Okay. So they are familiar how to do this thing because they live in the community of life. That's what the community is. Part of the community is the mundane thing has to be done. Okay, a wall might need to be fixed. A garden might have to be tended. A floor might have to be swept. So they learn how to be a Shudra. And also, probably the courageous people that even consider to come to communities of life and go against the society and live in the society, in the communities and oppose and, stand the opposition of the society to their lifestyle, which is different than them, and the society tells you why. Be yourself, be number one, don't worry about anybody else. But you say, no, I want to, meditate, awaken on my spiritual forces, I want to, be in a community that I'm just a part of it, I want to sacrifice. Sacrifice, society says, what? They're talking about sacrifice. We don't have to sacrifice, just get as much as you want for yourself and all that. So there are pretty courageous people that even consider to come to the community and live in it. Okay. And then they emerge as a leader of the community. They're chosen in the community as a person, that the rest of the community accept them as a leader. Then they accept the second level, third level, fourth level. So they should have a good intellect and the ability to understand the process and the people and all that. So they're intellectually also, have the ability, and hopefully they're also going to be business oriented and know how to do it. So they have the 4 classes, and also as I said, they have to have the ability to not to be corruptible. So when they reach to the higher level of the leadership, they won't use their position to fill up their own pocket instead of using their ability to lead the society and help the transformation of class domination. Because they have all this ability and they emerge from the society, hopefully they are the Paravipras, they are the people that God has chosen. Also it is in this time that the Paravipras will emerge. They were in the process of being created. Now they have been created and are here, and we can see more and more people will be coming forward, and we will see that ability of expanding the mission and attacking the Paravipras and creating the communities of light. And that is the goal, to create the communities of light so the Paravipras can emerge from them. Now they have all these qualities. What for? What do we need all these qualities? If they are the leaders from the society, so they create a hierarchy. And the very top of the hierarchy is what? Is the eldest. Eldest at the top of the hierarchy is absolute, almost has absolute power. He even can change the legislation. He can change, even can throw out the legislative, laws created by the, houses. So, but at the same time, people have the ability to pull him down if he's not doing his job. So it's not an absolute power without checking or balances. So when the Paravipras meditate and they see society is going toward, decay, that is the act. As we said, such psychological movement come from Shudras. When did the Shudras have the domination of society? Well, before the flood of Noah, everybody was Shudra. Okay. After the flood of Noah, God created the 5 classes of society, 4 classes of society. So before that, everybody Shudra, everybody was, didn't have any, hierarchy or anything. They just live. Actually, before the flood of Noah, human was more in touch with a spiritual world than with the physical world. Physical world wasn't that physical, okay? And that's why the shaman in Australia, they believe the dream world is more real than the real world. Okay? They say what we see is not as real as the dream world is. Okay? So before the flood of Noah, you can say most of the humans were in a more spiritual world. That's why after the flood of Noah, God did what? He closed the third eye. Most of the people's third eye is not open. They can see the reality in the spiritual world because the third eye is closed, and they believe what? That they are their physical body. That physical world is the only reality there is. They don't have any concept of the spiritual world behind this physical world. So this physical world to them is real world. But the real world really is the spiritual world that most of the people even not are aware of. So, so the 4 classes are created. Why? Because these 4 classes are necessary to make the society also self-sustaining. As you said, God created the universe self-sustaining, right? But before the flood of Noah, it wasn't self-sustaining. It was only Shudras. They were mostly in the spiritual world. They had the spiritual power. They even could extract life form from other plants or animal and use it for rejuvenation and become more selfish way of prolonging their own life and all that. So God closed that ability and made human to 4 classes, so make the process even in social movements and progress also self-sustaining. As I said, if you don't believe in the kingdom of heaven on earth, do you think this psychological movement is not going to happen? It still is going to happen. But the only difference is it's going to be violence. It's going to be happening in a very violent way. So after the flood of Noah, we can see suddenly we have kings. Before the flood of Noah, there was no mention of the kings, were there? There was never said there was a king, there was a Nimrod that was the mighty king. If we don't have those, because they didn't have those abilities, they didn't have the classes in the society. So we can see the Shudra era finished when the chiefs and the head of the community and eventually Nimrod came to the scene, and it continues to Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar was the zenith, the very top that the Ksattriya class reached. So the Ksattriya class come to its highest level at the time of the Nebuchadnezzar. That is why he has that dream. a dream of the statue with the head of the gold. Daniel told him, King, you are the head. You are the gold part of the statue. It means the Ksattriya era reached to the highest level in his era. And eventually, the food, the feet, with the iron and clay. But in the iron and clay, suddenly it changed from metal to what? To clay. Clay is more flexible. It's not as harsh and flexible. That's the era of the intellectual starts. That eventually it comes to its highest level at the time of the Renaissance. Okay. And Renaissance brings the intellectual ability, and then the great philosophers in Greece come and they bring the intellectual thing like Aristotle and what's the name? Aristotle and Socrates and Plato and all that thing. And then Nietzsche and all those people bring a lot of intellectual ability to humanity. And then next era is the era of Vaeshyans, which with the Industrial Revolution, it brings the Vaeshyan class to the scene. And then, of course, the Marx and Engels come to the idea of the thesis and antithesis. Okay? That the thesis is anything in this universe have an antithesis. Okay? No matter what. When you push the wall, your thesis, wall become antithesis, push back. And if anything have something against it. So they came to the idea of the workers are the thesis and the businessmen become antithesis, and eventually few people become very rich, a lot of people become poor, and eventually workers revolt against the rich, and that is when the worker revolution happens. And after that, of course, is the social, system come, and eventually it's going to end the communism, which they thought that was the ideal society. Nobody has any ownership and everything belongs to the government, and everybody works according to their ability and take according to their needs. And of course, we see what happened to communism after 70 years. It didn't work. Okay. Where Russia is going is toward intellectual taking over and become a business-oriented society. Okay. And of course, United States and West took another path. They said, okay, all right, we take your idea, but we don't let the wealth become to the hand of the few. So they tried by social laws to spread the resources more evenly to people. But it didn't last very long, did it? Even after 70 years, again we can see that their theory was in a sense correct. Few getting rich and a lot of people getting just workers. Okay. So become Vaeshyan era in this society. In Russia, the second era of Vaeshyan is emerging. So here is when the Paravipras say, oh, right now, okay, Russia needs to go toward the intellectuals and learn how to use the resources and create business-oriented area. In other places, might they need to go to the other phase, okay, to spread the wealth again to the more even way, so release the creativity and do that. So you can see here, but looking at this, at the history, and how God explains in it that how these social movement happened before to this point, we can see quietly, very clearly that what we're saying makes sense again. Okay, even in a social level. Okay. Social movement and psychological movement is not just a theory. It already has a historical base on it. Okay. And in history it happened. Okay. So it happened, therefore, that's what, how can we fix this thing? Are we going to go forever? We have, okay, what happened when the sugar revolution happened in Russia? for a very short period of time, there was a chaos and destruction, and Shudra class took over. Then there was a lot of killing and bloodshedding. And what did they have to do? They had to create an army or some Ksattriya class to calm the people and bring order to the Shudra domination, which was destructive. When they did that, that lasted for how long? For 70 years. Most of the Russian power was really army, wasn't it? Like they did what? They took over the Eastern Europe. They ran the country with the iron hand. They were very, Ksattriya mentality. You can see that system was run with the Ksattriya ability. Okay? That was the Ksattriya era. They dominated Russia for 70 years. And eventually, did it work? Eventually they realized, no, they need to become more, business oriented. They need to let the intellectual, take over, to bring more freedom, individuality, and all those things that in intellectual life. So the next era now in Russia emerging. The moment intellectual comes, what do? They like, individuality and sensuality, spending money for themselves and all that, and they encourage the Vaeshya business-oriented group, and the business of course becomes stronger. You will see pretty soon Russia is going to become very business-oriented. Even China, they're encouraging Western investment and becoming more and more business-oriented. What's going to happen if they continue with this? Eventually, there's going to be a worker revolution in every Vaeshya era if they do not pass the laws that spread the wealth back to a more even level. So that's what the role of the Paravipras comes in. Okay? They see this thing is happening by legislation, by creating wealth, by economical help, by diverting the wealth, in a more equal way. They will prevent the Shudra revolution. There was a question about who brought the concept of psychological movement to humanity. It was the Baba of that. Another Marga who brought the concept of the psychological movement, of social movement, but he never explained it as we do, though that before the flood of Noah there was no such classes, and after the flood of Noah that new human was created and classes were created. Because he never explained Daniel, the statues, the head of gold and the brass, silver middle and the brass stomach and the iron legs and the iron mixed with clay. Also, they never explained the historical facts of the emerging of the Ksattriya class and then intellectual class and the Vaeshya class historically as though explains it. And also the guiding lights that they will give to the leaders for the future is not explained. So although it kind of he was just like a forerunner. If I never got to Ananda Marga, I would have never known about that. So that is why he is, again, why Baba is so important in our teaching, and it's considered as one sign. Of course it's revealed as one sign, but he also brought a lot of, truth to humanity and all. So we can see that the role of Paravipras, as the question is, what's the role of Paravipra here? Okay, what do they do? So the role of Paravipras is to smooth the transition of one period to other period. So we have a smooth sailing, in a sense, in human of the society, instead of having revolts, having people become revolutionaries and create, who oppose the government, and eventually, a great fight and destruction between them, make the revolution to come and take over. But as we see, that those revolutions doesn't stay very long, because they only support one class that they are supporting to take over. And that class again become dominating force, and again people, those who are not in that class won't like it and create opposition to it, or eventually take over, and they become dominating class. The whole idea of the Paravipras is to smooth out the transition from one dominating class to another dominating class, and as the THOTH explains, each time this happened, the transition from one cyclical movement to another become smoother and closer to the balanced state of the human society, and eventually we reach a point that society doesn't go up and down anymore, but become a completely balanced society between all these classes. Now, how do they do that? How the Paravipras are able to do that? As we said, Paravipras are the people who are the hierarchy. They create the hierarchy. They create the body of the leaders, and they create the judges and Brahmin class. And eventually they become what? The body of elders, and eventually the elders emerge from it. Elders' body have a lot of power, a lot of say in the society, so they can see where the society comes, even if the legislative bodies pass the bill or something that is not according to the social movement in that time, they can change it to something that is more according to the social movements. And also they can guide, they can teach, they can bring great awareness about the social movements to the society, so even legislative body can be guided to help the transition. And of course, if nothing happened, hopefully elders is connected to God and meditative and knows exactly what's going in the society, and he can guide the society toward the next thing. If they can't, then we don't have the kingdom of heaven. We don't have the Paravipras, we don't have the correct hierarchy, and the social movement is going to happen naturally, which is happening now, and of course there's going to be again destructive and revolt and all that. So the role of the Paravipras is to understand God's way of doing things and help it to happen in a smooth way. If they need to use the Ksattriyas, they might. They might have something to change things by force. But of course, they use the force not to destroy, but to bring about the change necessary. So we can see they have a lot of flexibility. It's not something we can predict what's going to happen in the future. But in that time, the Paravipras know what should be done, and they will do it. So you can see the role of the Paravipras is very, very important. Okay? And that's what, actually we are not Paravipras, or we are not even trying to create Paravipras, we're trying to create the facilitating body. We will facilitate for the system to come about. They have a follow-up, I guess.
Well, a question about if you're born and you notice that you do have tendencies of Ksattriya or Vaeshya or something like that, but you should be encouraged to develop other qualities, right? Because we're not trying to, I know you've said this many times, we're not trying to encourage a caste system or encourage separation by these things. This is just to help you understand yourself.
Yeah, that is a good assumption. Actually, as the society becomes smoother and smoother, more and more people will create the ability of all the classes, and the Paravipras number will increase more and more, and hopefully, as I said, each time the cyclical movement happens, it becomes smaller, the variation becomes smaller and becomes closer to the balanced state. And eventually we will have a balanced society, actually, that is the ideal society, when everything is in balance, okay? As I said, the technology is going to take over the mundane works, okay? So more and more we're not going to need Shudra. Still probably, we're going to probably sweep our floor, unless we have a machine to sweep the floor for us, or mow the lawn, or do a small thing, okay, put a screw in the wall, with a screwdriver, or a special screwdriver, which is easier to do it. Even today they have the screwdrivers, which are, much easier than 20 years ago. You have to really work hard, but now they have a machine that, screws the screwdriver in the wall. So it becomes easier even for the Shudra. As I said, society if the people become higher consciousness and they are not violent, then criminals are, learn how to either help to know themselves and not to be criminal and calm the mind. And who knows, we can create a machine probably, to bring you to the higher consciousness and calm the criminal down, or create the ability to change the criminals' behavior. Okay? So there is a lot of possibility in the future that even cannot even imagine what's going to happen. But the base of it is to encourage the society to become a balanced society. And so there's less workers, there's less Christian class. Mostly it's going to be intellectuals, which we encourage even intellectuals to become spiritual, more spiritual. And Vaeshya actually is intellectuals directed their intellect toward the hoarding of the wealth and physical thing. And when we can teach them to meditate and realize they can take you to the grave. When you die, you're going to leave everything here. Why are you so greedy? And also, if physiological and safety needs of everybody is provided, and when you get old, you don't have to worry about how we're going to live. You're not going to be in the street. Somebody's going to take care of you in the context of light or society. People don't have to be worried about their CDs and their investment, the stock market, and how much money they're going to have when they're retired. How do they have enough to live on it or not, and all that. So that fears that exists now is going to be much less, hopefully eventually is eliminated, and we have the society that people live here and now, and that will create, that's going to take a lot of problems that society have today. And of course, more and more people become in our characters, as you mentioned, but probably they still have people that have the better ability to become a business people. We were going to have a genius people that, they love to think about the universe and how the quantum, physics work. Okay, even they might even change the quantum physics, theory to something else that it makes more sense, intellectually. They even might, prove God exists, by intellectual explanation, and actually intellectually we can say the probability that God exists is greater than everything happened by by chance. Everything happening by chance, is impossible. Okay, statistically or from a mathematical point of view. But there was somebody who did guide this to happen the way it happened. Okay, that makes more sense. Okay, that is the possibility even. The possibility is greater than the other way around. So we can see that intellectual also reach, a spiritual understanding and a greater degree, and a lot of them have. Just like even Einstein, Einstein, talks about, there is an intelligence behind all this. So we can see that humanity is going toward that ability, and eventually everybody become more spiritual in a better sense than become dogmatic, because my parents or my society told me I have to believe in these dogmas, and I'm going to believe on it, and if anybody opposes it, I'm going to chop their head off. Okay, it's not going to be like that. I believe in God because it makes sense. If God didn't make sense, I wouldn't believe on it. Okay, you can see He created the universe self-sustaining. He created the society self-sustaining. Who did it? He said He's going to send these prophets and this revelation, and He did. He has accomplished all those things and made everything self-sustaining for us. He creates a fruit which is full of, minerals and energy for human. Where did energy and things become the mineral from the earth? We can't eat earth. If He had left us on eating earth, we wouldn't get our nutrition. But He created fruit, vegetables, all those wonderful things that we eat it. And remember, God has created us for our enjoyment and for nourishment and for life-giving things. Eat it and remember that God has done it. Okay, so we become godly in this way, remember Him all the time. We can see who gave us I. God gave us I. That is the greater, realization and God understanding that if you don't believe in such a thing, you're going to go to hell. But I have no idea what am I eating, who gave this body, who gave this eye to me and created such a wonderful thing for me to be here. So this is greater realization of God come in every moment in our life, and everything we see God's hand in it. So we always are with God. We always praise Him for what He has done for us, and we understand His wonder and beauty that brought to humanity. So if we can bring this to humanity more and more, then we're going to have what? More godly people with a higher realization of God's realization. Okay? And then they would not do what God said don't do anymore. Okay? Then they will follow the 10 Commandments. They're going to follow the 15 Commandments. Because that is what God said, you will know me in a greater degree. Okay? So this is our job. Again, you have a great job here to do, and you have concentrated. You have to see the vision again. You have to see what God has sent us to us and how we are responsible to take this to the humanity and make them also see this, and not to get mundane little lives that we think, oh, that is the most important thing, my little life. No, your little life is a speck in comparison with this vision and God, what God has given to you. Okay, so get over it. Get over your little thing. Okay, if you remember, don't ask what God can do for you, but what you can do for God. Of course, that is Kennedy's saying in another way, but I borrowed from him because it makes sense. It is true, Just remember how you did to this point affect where you are at. Now, change it. Change it in God's way. So at least your future, next lifetime, is going to be a better life. So we can see that all these things, again, is our responsibility to bring to humanity, to educate them, to bring a greater faith, not with dogmas, but bringing them to see God in everything they do. Okay? And even when you eat, look at the food as God's blessing that gives you nourishment. God brought those minerals into that fruit, to that vegetable, to that water you drink, or the food you eat. Who brought those things together for you so it nourishes your body, so you can have a strong body and use it for God's purpose. So don't be unaware of God's doing. Become aware. That's what awareness is. What that meditation is, isn't it? To become much more aware of things. Okay? When you become more aware, then anything you do become godly, and you see God's hand in it. That is greater faith. All our ritual is not just doing them automatically, but doing them and realizing the world, I pay my salutation to the Divine Father. I pay my salutation to the Divine Father, God, and on and on. So become more aware of yourself, become more aware of what you do, become aware of life, of God's hand in everything. So if you can become this awareness to most of the humanity, are we going to have better people? Will they steal? Will they kill? Will they, become destructive tendency in the government or in the society? See, so having awareness of God and bringing to the humanity is going to solve 90% of our problem, 99% of our problem. If they see what they do is going to affect them. God really exists. He really did make this universe self-sustaining. He did make the society self-sustaining. He does really exist. And he said, I shouldn't do this thing. If I do, what happens to me? I'm going to be thrown out of the Garden of Eden, which means His grace. Okay. So what am I seeking? His grace, self-realization, seeing God's hand. So this is the most important part of the future society. This awareness of God, acceptance of God, realization of God, seeing His hand in everything, and realizing you are just a speck, in His kingdom, but the great speck, because you are a part of God, you are one with Him. Okay. So, with that realization, you see God in everything. You put your life on a godly way. You are a part of God. Okay. Therefore, you will make a conscious decision to be a good person. You make a conscious decision not go against God's law. Because, if you go against God's law, who's going to get hurt? Is God going to get hurt? He doesn't care what we do, but He knows it's not good for us. We lose that awareness. The moment we are still, what's going to be? You're afraid, are they going to get cut or not? Are you thinking about God? No, you're thinking about, am I going to get cut or not? When you lie, the moment you lie, you say, am I going to, get cut? I lied or something. So you see, you lose the awareness, being aware of God, you become aware of self, how to protect it. Okay? But you don't need to protect it if you're honest. There's nothing to protect. Okay? Or some people talk about the privacy. Why do we need so much privacy? Okay? If we're honest, we're upright, and we are completely, open, and we don't do anything wrong. My life is an open book. Come here, look at it. There's nothing in it. There's no fear of, anybody come. Now, I'm not talking privacy, having a room and being by yourself or meditating. I'm talking about the too much, fear of other people, know about us. Why are you afraid? People know about you. I'm nothing to hide. Come here, we can know anything you want. So we can see that our system, based on a social movement, but the most important thing in it is to create honest people, to create godly people, to create people who follow the 10 Commandments, 15 Commandments, meditate, awaken the social forces, and eventually create the people. They are good, solid, honest people in society. In that case, a businessman deals in a very honest way. He said, "Look, I bought this for this much. I need to make a living. Okay, if I put this much profit in it, I'll make a decent living. Here, I sell it to you for this much. Not how can I get the most money out of the other person and all that." But of course, again, human nature is there still. Okay. We're still dealing with human nature, which is greedy, which is dishonest, which is sometimes, they want everything for themselves. And they think about, what am I going to get out of this myself? Instead of how can I get something to other people. That is why Paravipras have to let the psychological movement happen naturally because of human nature, but as it happens in the future, it come closer to the balanced society. We should just explain that the businessmen are honest, the intellectual people are creative, there is less cut and class needed, and probably labor or shooter class almost going to be eliminated because of the technology. So in the end, we're going to have a kingdom of heaven on earth. Actually, that is when the kingdom comes. The human nature eventually changes to the godly nature.
What is the significance in God revealing in Thoth that Baba had the key of David, though, tablet 8.1? Didn't the Messiah always have the key of David?
Well, if you look at the second seal, the center of the great sign, the second seal and the sixth seal, all of them have the key of David, or the kingdom. The center son of David, or son of Solomon, is the kingdom of heaven in heaven, right? That's the largest, biggest kingdom in the universe. And that's all established. We know God is in control. We just explained it. He created the universe what? Self-sustaining. He doesn't have to interfere. You make karma, you pay for it. As simple as that. Okay? You can't get away, nobody can get away from it. And it's been self-sustaining. It's just like a program in the computer. You push a button, something happens. And it's consistent. It always happens. Okay? You do karma, you pay for it. Okay? And God said, thou shalt not do this. He really meant it. Okay? It's not a matter of discussion or intellectual analysis or sitting there and talking about it. No, maybe he really didn't mean that, he meant that, or no, he really meant it. He said, thou shalt not do this, okay? And you have to tell your children to, you shall not do fornication, thou shalt not steal, you shall not. There's no but about it. Okay? Did you tell your children that? Did you teach them? Did you insist on it? Did you tell them they shall not do that? And then when they did it, don't run to God and say, hey, he's doing it or she's doing it, come and help me. Okay? You were the responsible person to do it. You were the person had to teach your children not to do those things, and their children should have listened to you, and society should back the parents to be able to teach their children the right way. Not to tell them the children should look like, Madonna or this and that, and they can do. If it feels good, you do it. God didn't say that, did he? Did he say, if it feels good, do it, don't do it? No. He said, thou shalt not do this. Okay? That was the end of discussion. He even didn't discuss it with you. He didn't say, oh, let's discuss this, it's a good idea or not. He said, no, you shouldn't do it. Okay? And that's the end of the story. So, that's his kingdom. He created the okay, you don't have to. What I'm saying, anything I say, you don't have to do. That's the good thing about this teaching and my mission. I'm saying this thing, you don't have to do it. It doesn't bother me. Actually, I was reading in the internet about some people that are trying to create the communities, and one of the things they came up, most of them became very bitter, after doing it for a long time, and they weren't able to create the communities they thought. And one of them was said, well, he went to that community, and there was a bitter 60-year-old man there. And somebody answered, well, if you had tried to create a community, you would be bitter by the time you are 62, because it's such a hard work, and people don't listen to you. And then I said, I'm 50-some years old. I'm not bitter. I was trying to create a community for 20 years, probably I should be bitter too. And then I realized, the reason I'm not bitter because living this revelation, don't be attached to the result. Those guys are attached to the result of their action. They want to see that community form, and they're attached to the result of action. That's what they eventually became bitter, because they didn't get what they wanted, or they envisioned to get. Send them what this satsang and teaching. You don't have to do it. Then I said, God said, thou shalt not do this. He meant it. You might say, oh, he's preaching, what, brimstone and fire and all that, like a regular preacher. But in my case, I don't insist on it. You don't have to do it. Okay? But I'm telling you, the law of the karma, there is no discussion about it. Okay? God said it, and anybody goes against it, gonna break. Okay? You cannot break the law of God, you will break yourself against it. Okay? That is the difference between our teaching and other teaching. We give you a choice. Go ahead, do it. But we tell you, it's gonna happen to you. Okay? No matter how much we discuss about it. And that's what we have to teach humanity. Humanity eventually to realize that their action have a consequence. Okay? They have to take the responsibility. They have to discipline themselves. They have to, meditate on this thing and overcome anything is not godly. As simple as that. No matter what the society says, no matter what the whole world says, you will not follow what is not godly. So, if you can make more people of like that, if you can create communities of love based on these laws that God has sent us, eventually we'll flip the trend from where it's going, which is to hell, to where it should go, to heaven. Okay? So, that's what we're trying to take people to heaven, but they want to go to hell. Okay? Can I throw them around and take them to heaven by force? I can't. Even if I could, I won't. It's just, we have to grow up. We have to come to the point, realize, as my responsibility. Maitreya's responsibility is to tell us what is the truth and guide us to it. But it is our responsibility to walk it. Okay. So again, see, how this thing works. It's a wonderful thing God created. And He gave us choice where we don't really have a choice. He created self-sustaining. That is the way it's going to happen. That's the way society is going to go. That is the cyclical movement is. No matter if they come, if the Paravipras come, if we create the kingdom or not, He is the king. He is guiding this thing with His self-sustaining way. So, you can see that the kingdom of heaven is already established. Those guys who have reached to the kingdom in the heaven, they follow God's law. They don't go against it, no matter what, environment tells them. And that's the kingdom of heaven. And the communist of light is the kingdom of heaven on earth. Okay? The hierarchy, usually in the management, they have only one hierarchy upward, and that's all they have. That means a hierarchy for the organization and society and everything. But what's a triangle downward? You wonder if the hierarchy is upward all the time, well, God has triangle downward too. That's the Spirit of God in the hierarchy. Okay? Again, we're talking about the creation of the hierarchy. If even our hierarchy loses touch with God, especially if the eldest loses touch with God, what's going to happen? That's what the capstone at the hierarchy that we have is separated from the rest of the hierarchy. The eldest is what? Is in the capstone, isn't it? He is supposed to be God. If the rest is connected too, great. The more people are connected to God, the better. All of us should be connected to God. Okay? All of us should see this clearly. Okay? And then, if he is also disconnected, what's happened to capstone? Capstone is at the top, the rest of the hierarchy is separated from the capstone. So nobody is connected. Are we going to have the kingdom of God on earth? No, we can't. But the Spirit of God is no longer in the hierarchy. That's why we have to bring it. That's why I said the most important thing in our society is what? To bring God into it. To bring God in every level in our life. In our work, in our eating, in our anything we do. We bring God into it. If you don't, then you are disconnected. The society is disconnected. Your children is disconnected. You are disconnected. Your husband, your wife is disconnected. But that society is going to fall apart. Of course, it starts from the family. The father is no longer the father. The mother is not a mother. The children are not children. The grandparents are not grandparents. And on and on. Okay? You can see not the way God created this thing to be is not there anymore. Okay? And that society is in trouble. Okay? No matter how powerful they are. So we have to go back to God's way. This is the kingdom of heaven in heaven. And also, the sixth seal, we can see the kingdom of heaven within. How do we create the kingdom of heaven within? Who has the kingdom of heaven within? The Paravipras, the elect. How do we become an elect? By following the eternal divine path. It so beautifully falls all together. The great sign, okay? Awakening of the reserve forces. That is meditation and concentration and chanting and dancing and whatever helps you, awaken your spirit, know thyself, to know God. But is that enough? He says no. Get up the concept of light. Concept of light is based on the kingdom of heaven on earth. That is where the hierarchy comes from. That is where our whole system that we just explained will evolve. But being in community is enough? No. You have to sacrifice for it. You have to become selfless. Forget about being human, but become godly. The self-centeredness is the selflessness. Then, surrendering and submissive to God. What's the will of God for me? Okay. What am I best in this society, in this community, in this movement? Okay. Another thing, mission is a movement. It's just not a teaching. If it was just a teaching, we would have been a space kind of a teaching. Don't worry about it, just meditate. You're going to be okay. That's a teaching, it's not a movement. We wouldn't need computers, we didn't need teachers, we wouldn't need, the things we need to make this mission. If it was just a teaching, we didn't need resources, we didn't need to charge you guys 10% of your income so we can get this mission. It's a movement. Movement means resources. That's what another thing all of us have to realize. Mission is not just a teaching, it's a movement. Okay? And movement means resources to move it. You see, movement, it means moving. Movement means energy. It means something to make it move. Okay? So we can see that, we need these resources because it's a movement. And then, of course, you become universalists, and you become but when they succeed, what do you have? You have the kingdom of heaven within. Okay? You create the kingdom within yourself. Okay? And that is why all those three signs, they have the Star of David or the Sign of Solomon in them. Each of them is related to kingdom. Kingdom of heaven on heaven, kingdom of heaven on earth, and kingdom of within. That's why Baba's son has the kingdom in it as well. Actually, if you look at any teaching or any teacher or any prophet or Messiah, they always talk about the community. There is not one teacher or God sent, messenger who did not talk about the community. Buddhism, there was Sangha and Dharma. Okay. Hinduism, okay. They talk about the marriage and wife and husband and community and how they pray and do every morning prayer. Judaism, they even talk about the tribe, okay, the 12 tribes of Israel. Christianity, they have Christian community and they created Islam. Islam is an ummah or a community itself. Okay. And on and on. So we can see the communities always talked about, but no one ever came up with such crystallized explanation of how you can create forms of life. Okay. which is the base of the kingdom and our teaching. So, and because each of them talk about the kingdom, they have that kingdom of God in them. Kingdom of heaven, the son of Solomon. Kingdom of earth, son of Solomon. Kingdom of within is the rising sun, which eventually make you understand the teaching.
In Holiest One, Tablet 18, page 26, only when a human finds his other part will he become perfect, verse 4. And they were separated from each other, and each was something less than the image of God. Only when these two parts join each other, either on the material plane or on the spiritual plane, can they become perfect again, verse 6. What happens if our other part is not following the eternal divine path, or if he or she does not want to hear about God?
Well, this is the topic that we talked many times and explained many times in our satsongs. It's a very complicated subject that we talked about. First of all, your other part might not be even embodied. Okay. Second, your other part might, be in the body, but they have chosen another path, many lifetimes. Okay, and they have completely become separated from each other. And another one is you might not have another part at all. You might be perfect. And God created you as one in this lifetime, not to want another part. Another way is your other part is God Himself. Okay? So really, that's what sannyasins must become, that the other part is God. Okay? They have no need for another part on this earth because they have come perfect as they are together, and they can completely realize that nothing really satisfies them out of themselves, and what they have been created for to do, this is God's work. So it's very hard to really say who is your other part anyway. Okay? And that is when the concept of arranged marriage came out in the beginning. When the community of light is created, okay, and in that community children are grown up together, and little by little they will prove who really matches with whom easily. And that was the base in those society for having the arranged marriage, because young people themselves, okay, they get attracted to each other, sometimes not wisely. Okay, they cannot see, as wisely in a deeper level what that relationship can, bring to them. Okay, but elders were supposed to be more observant and more wiser than the young men and women, so they could tell them what is best for them. Of course, the question goes, were they really wise? Okay. The assumption is the elder people are wiser than the younger people. But what if they weren't? So you can see that there's a lot of elements is involved to knowing who is your other part. Okay? How do you know that one you think is your other part is really your other part? Okay? It really guides you to that person and told you that he is or she is your other part, or it is your desire, okay, that makes you think she or he is your other part, or it is your desire, you choose that person because they fulfill a part of you that you need to be fulfilled. Okay? And also look at your life, did I find my other part? If you find your other part, usually you find your other part early in your life. Okay? By 30, if you didn't find your other part, you can pretty much assume that you better become sannyasi. Okay? and your other part is not there anymore, okay? Or you tried a couple of marriages and it didn't work, you know? Which one was my other part? The first marriage, the second marriage, the third marriage, the 10th marriage? Or the first girlfriend or boyfriend, the second, the third, the 10th? Eventually you have realized, well, that something is not completely, falling in their places. You're not supposed to have, hundreds of marriages and 10,000 boyfriends and girlfriends, and at the same time say, oh, maybe this one is the correct one. Also, we are living in a society, it's very hard, to find your other part. Okay? The teaching is not based on God's, way, and affection is mostly physical, okay, or mental. It's not spiritual. Okay? But in the context of life, affection is what? It's mostly spiritual. Okay? There's not too much selfish thing going on as it is. You marry someone in 6 months, or you live with them for 6 months. After 6 months, you tell them, you don't understand me, and you go, hey, I'm not supposed to understand you, I'm supposed to understand myself. Of course I don't understand you, because I don't understand myself first. Know thyself. He never said, know your partner, he said. Know thy partner to know God. He never said that. He said, know thyself. Of course, if you know yourself, you know your partner. But human is human. They have the same, problems, the same ability, the same desire, the same, attachment, desires. So when you know yourself, you know your partner. With all that, if you know yourself, you actually have everybody as your partner. You can marry, two people can marry each other, even if they are not each other's flame. So when Thoth is talking about they were not perfect, it's talking about people, the regular people, they could come here and they are not perfect, they are not spiritual, they're not thinking about God, they don't want to have nothing to do with the mission and realization and bring the kingdom of heaven on earth. Because just some regular people out there that they feel very disconnected from God and feel imperfect, and they don't have any vision, they don't have any mission, they don't have any calling in their life. Okay? But there are regular people that the only thing they are interested in, how can I find my other part and get married and have children and live and die. Okay? But the people who are in the mission and they are called for such a great teaching and revelation, they should be higher than regular people only thinking about, what is my other part? And they will dedicate their life and their life to the vision, and the rest is not important to them. If they have such a high people, I'm sure the other part is high too. The other part cannot be, low and not thinking about God and the mission and the vision that God has given to them. Because they are such a high people, they will affect their other part to become high as well. And they have been for many lifetimes. So the other part also will become very high toward them. So if they don't, then you have to look at your life and meditate and say, why? Why is it that I'm attracted to mission and my partner is not? Maybe you're not each other's part. Okay? Maybe you choose that other part for other reasons, which is not completely based on God's thing. Physical attraction, mental attraction, financial reason, comfort. Okay? The desire to have things he or she has, or if not completely, you didn't go for it because God said really he or she is other part. So that sentence is based in a lot of assumptions, okay, and it's based in godly way. It's based on you really are connected to yourself, and yourself, and then God puts another person in your path, and you just like magnet hook up with each other, or you see a godly reason to hook up with each other. Okay. In my case, I didn't thought I'm ever going to marry, because I never thought I'm a marrying person. I had too many things interesting going on in my life to, spend my life, just fulfilling, life, to get a married life. So. But I had no choice. God put me in a situation that I had no choice, and give vision to Saraji that it's about me, and she sees me in her third eye, and it just happened, and it worked fine. She's my best friend, and I love her very much, and you see my other part. I always felt I don't have any other part, but that is great that she's such a great lady that God put in front of me, and we're very happy. That I go very happy. So you can see that you don't force the issue. Okay? You don't look for it. You don't go out of your way to find your other path. Okay? But if it happened, if God gave you the ability and find such a person that you can become one, especially you have a purpose. If your other part is taking you away from God and your purpose, then you have to think very hard and twice. Actually, you have to let that other part go, okay? Because they are obstacles. They are not helpful. That's why I love Sarkar. She is not obstacle in my path. Most of the time. So, but if she is, if she ever will be, I have to let her go. Because no matter what, God is number one. And God has to be number one in your life. Okay? And then you will be surprised. You might find someone, they really come to you and become your partner. And they are not against what you do. So it is again a personal decision. If you don't, then you become in a split. You become lukewarm. Okay? Because then you have two masters. You have God and your partner. Which one you're going to listen? Either you become a lukewarm, or you have to leave one, go to another, or go to one and then go to other one, then go to one, back and forth. Then you go back and forth. What's happening again? You become lukewarm. Because you're not really belong to any of them. Okay? If you find someone you really think they are your partner, just give them the message, and if they came to your way and God's way, then that's great. But if they're not going to listen to you, again, what are you trying to do? They're trying to force them. Even I can't force anybody to become godly. I can just guide them. I just can give them message. I can tell them about God and how His universe works. It's up to you to guide yourself and say, yeah, what Maitreya says makes sense. If I don't follow what he said, I will create karma, and I'm going to suffer for it, and I'm going to live a lot of lifetime in the future with a lot of suffering in it. That's another answer about our society. The less people create karma, the less society can have a karmic to pay in the future. That's another thing that makes more perfect, society more perfect. Because people create less karma. They don't lie, they don't steal, they don't, do the things they do. Okay? So, again, this is a decision. First of all, is really that other person my partner, my other partner? How do you know? Are you that high? Are you connected to God completely that you can say for sure, yeah, I know he or she is my other partner? If you're that sure, then give the message to him or her. Let's see if they come to you. If they are really partner and you're that high, they should just like that. They say, yeah, I love this and makes sense. And that's what the people are called for this mission. They read this mission once and they say, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. I want to be a part of it. Okay. And then if they came to you, great. If they didn't, then again you have to think twice. So, which one do I want? God or my partner? Is my partner is as strong in me as God is? Then you're lost. You have another master. Or God is more important to me, and this person is not. With all the things I thought he or she is my partner, he or she is not. Because if I am that high, I am connected to this mission, highest realization, highest revelation ever, and I am called for this mission, and my partner is absolutely different than I am and is very low, then how could it be? Therefore I made a mistake. It's not my partner. Okay. And so if you're high, if you're in the mission, and if you find someone who's not in a mission, you have to think twice. See which one you have to choose. Partners are important, are very powerful. Your partner are a very powerful person in your life. Okay? They can make your life miserable. They can make you forget about God because you love them and you want to please them, or they can help you. Okay? They can help you to go to God and become one with each other. Okay? So be very careful about what you take from though as something that you feel is what fulfills your own desire. Though is talking about the highest things. Though is talking about the people who really know each other and know themselves. And when it happens, they know for sure that is the will of God. It's not my will, but His will be done. So, pull yourself up to that level. And if you're there, you find someone that they are one with you and they can help you in your spiritual progress, great. But if they are taking you away from God, it again is your decision. I'm not going to force it on you. It is your decision to say, which one do you want? Okay? And hopefully, we all become great people, that our own desires doesn't change the meaning of the teaching and though, and we see though and its word exactly as it's meant to be, and not as our desires want them to be. But as I said, those words are for regular people that are here for little small life, just find a partner and maybe evolve. But in this mission you have to have such a high vision that nothing at all should sway you from being one-pointed toward this mission. Our time is up, and if you have any questions there, send it to the mission for next month. And I wish you all well and a godly month. The next satsang is going to be next month before the Feast of Tabernacle. Have all of you made your mind to be here or not for the feast? But if you are even not here, I hope you keep it wherever you are. Salam.